This video is about a conversation that I had with a friend of mine, and I feel like what I have to say needs to be said. So basically, we're having a conversation about music, and everyone knows music is like football for the gays. You have your fave, and you have the person that you just trash. Well, of course, my friend is a Beyonce fan, and he's a fan of the newer generation's female pop stars. So he wasn't aware of a lot of stuff that happened in the early 2000s. So one name came up because I think we were watching Britney at the, what was it, Apple Music Festival? Yeah, this is something that she done recently, and he was just giving her a lot. Now, we all know that Britney doesn't perform at the same level as she used to perform. That's fine, but he just gave her a lot, basically calling her a flop, a nobody, like, why is she still making music? Like, basically, she's a nobody. So, I had to school him. So, he didn't know that in the late 90s, early 2000s, that Britney Spears she was that bitch. Like, she was unrivaled. She was the biggest thing going on at that time for years. Or basically one of the biggest. No one could pretty much take her down. There was, of course, you had your Christinas and your Jessicas, but those were all record label clones of Britney. Those are basically other record labels trying to follow the Britney Spears formula. So when you have female artists coming out, being thrown out there into the industry, being made up to mimic you and your formula, you know you're doing something right. But that's no here nor there. He basically did not know that her earlier albums, like, went on, pretty much debuted in the first week selling in upwards of 1 million copies. No female artist is doing that right now, with an exception of Adele and Taylor Swift. No one. And even though their albums have debuted, or Taylor Swift's album has debuted selling in upwards of 1 million copies, it still probably won't see that same success. Britney has went on to sell in upwards of 20, 25, and 30 million copies of her first couple of albums worldwide. Nobody will ever see those numbers in this industry today, with an exception of maybe Adele. Of course, we know that it's a different time and a different age for music, but still, it just won't happen. And he tried to make the point of, yeah, let these current artists would have been popping back then, they would have seen that same success. And I couldn't disagree more. The type of music that is being made right now was not popping when I was a teen. I'm an MTV kid. They weren't playing all of this. This type of music was not on MTV popping. It may have made it, but it wasn't a big deal. So unless you were a pop phenomenon, you weren't going to see extreme success or major success in the music industry. You weren't going to see Britney Spears type of success. You definitely weren't going to see that. Just to name a few that were huge at that time. You have your Britneys, you have your Backstreet Boys, you have your NSYNCs, and then it trickles down to your Christinas and other artists. And he just didn't know the level of stage that this girl operated on. Just think about it now. She just performed at the Apple Music Festival. Who else in her in her time of being on top is still performing? No one, with an exception of Justin Timberlake. But the vast majority of them are gone. There's no Backstreet Boys anymore. There's no NSYNC anymore. Wait, I take that back. There are Backstreet Boys, but they're still not operating at that level that they were. They aren't even operating at the level that Britney Spears is operating right now. Whatever. Yeah, your Christina's. I love her to death. She can't get an album off the ground to save her life. Bionic Tour was trashed. It was canceled. Your Jessica Simpson's. I really don't know what happened to her in music. I know she's still doing her thing. She's extremely successful in the fashion industry, in the fashion world, but not music. And of course, you have your other artists, your Mandy Moores and your Willa Fords, that came up with that same Britney formula that are no longer popping at all. So, yeah, I think Britney is iconic. There are things that this girl has done in the music industry that will never be undone by the best performers, by the best. Like, perfect example being her 2 VMA performances. The striptease. That will never be undone by anyone. That will never be topped by anyone. I don't care. You can get on stage, you can sing live, you can huff and puff, you can dance your little heart out, but you won't undo those legendary performances that she made. The Snake, that's in history as one of the best VMA performances, and you can still go back. It's still iconic. It will never be taken away from her. Like, she was that bitch. When she released an album, any artist releasing around that time pretty much was committing career suicide. Like, you did not release with a Britney Spears. Like, she would eat your ass up and spit you out just by saying, "Oh, baby, baby." Like, is she relevant now? Yeah, she's extremely relevant. She won't go anywhere. She can lip sync and dance badly all she wants. It pisses me off sometimes, but yeah, she's not going anywhere. She's going to be here for a long time, I think, unless she stops. Because there'll always be a place in music for her. Like, she pretty much is, like, there's no other girl that has done what she's done. Like, a lot of artists come out and they're always topped by other artists, or their best is topped by someone else's best or someone else. Britney, her accolades and everything are still hers. Like, she hasn't been topped by anybody. At her best, you still remember her as that bitch. That's all I had to say. Bye. Sidebar. These damn Oreo Thins are amazing. I swear, you guys need to try these. These are like fucking crack.